Debbie, is this your first meeting as chair?
Yes. Raise the roof. No. So are we ready or you got a minute?
Almost there.
I think you're ready whenever Marcia says you're ready.
Okay.
Ready.
Ready? Okay, well, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Operations Committee meeting via Zoom. It's August 27th, 2020. Roll call, please. Or do I call it?
Why don't you start and have the committee people go first?
Pardon me?
You start, announce your name and where you're from,
Okay,
and
all right.
the committee people, and then other people.
Okay, Debbie Davison, City of Ravenna.
Marvin Woods, City of Streetsboro.
Morgan Tipton, Kent, Ohio.
David Ginn, Middle Portage County. Karen?
Karen Beck, Ohio.
Debbie, you might want to, for the record, list who's on the committee. And those would be people that would be making motions, seconding and voting.
Okay,
And if you have other board
Okay.
members who are here as guests and are not been named as alternates to the committee, they would be listed separately and they can ask questions, but they wouldn't be voting or making motions.
okay. So this is our first meeting together as this group. I'm Debbie Davison. The other members of the committee are Morgan Tipton and Marvin Woods. We also have Karen Beck with us, David Ginn, and Marianne well, not Marianne.
Richard.
Who?
Richard.
Richard.
Brown.
Richard Brockett, sorry. And so the only people voting on anything will be myself and Mr. Woods and Mrs. Tipton.
I think Jeff Childers is on also.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry, Jeff Childers is in too, as a guest. So do I go over old business, any old business that we have? It's really hard to hear, Marcia. And new business, I believe what we're doing is going over a resolution by the Portage Area Regional Transportation Authority, PARTA, Board of Trustees authorizing the general manager or her designee to purchase up to 3 transit buses, optional equipment, and spare parts from Transportation Equipment Sales Corporation, which is Tesco. So I think.
You might want to have someone from staff explain that.
All right, yes. Could I have someone go over that for us, please?
We're having a little bit of technical difficulty on our end. If you could just hang on for a minute.
Sure.
We're hearing it in symphony.
We're not hearing you very well either, so.
And then just as a reminder, once the staff has made a presentation, the committee would not be voting on the resolution, but would be voting to recommend the resolution to the full board. And then the full board would be the one that would consider approving the resolution.
Yes.
If you could give us a few.
It's breaking up. Still breaking up.
Yeah, if you could give us a couple of minutes, we're having a problem here.
You're good now, though. Can hear
Okay. Okay.
that. Mhm.
That sound okay?
Yes,
We were hearing it in.
you just went out again.
Help. Give us just a moment. We're still hearing it. Repeat. Yeah. Don't you have?
We'll be playing bingo.
You
Yeah,
can tell
if you could
jokes.
just give us a couple minutes, we're still working on a problem over here.
Sure.
You still have the internet on behind it.
I made pickles today.
Oh my gosh, they look beautiful.
Oh, those are lovely. I'm dazzled.
I am too.
No doubt. That's hard work.
30 sour or sweet?
What kind?
These ones are French cornichon. They're kind of like a tangy, salty, savory kind of thing. They're really nice with cold beverages and sandwiches and things like that. It's not quite a dill pickle. It has thyme and peppercorns and garlic. So it's a little bit different, but it's got bay leaves and stuff in there too. I'm excited to try them. My kids and I grew these in our garden too. So that was
Oh my
really
gosh.
exciting.
Yeah.
How many jars did you do?
I only have 2 so far because you kind of have to harvest the pickles as they come mature on the plant. But I had so many tomatoes. We've been roasting tomatoes too. And the blueberries from Michigan are so inexpensive that it's pretty economical to make your own jam. So we're making lots of freezer jam with blueberries this week too.
Wow, you are just little Helen homemaker.
Well, I had lots of grandmas who did this sort
Oh.
of thing with me when I was a kid, and that was
Oh,
fun.
okay.
And I forgot like everything. But my mother-in-law is really good at putting things up too, and she taught me how to do strawberry freezer jam. That's something we do as a family back in June. And then just a few weeks ago, we put up 420 ears of corn. So it was like 60
Do you
quarts.
put it, you cut it off the cob?
Yep, you ream it off the cob. You shuck all
Her
the
name's
corn.
not
and-
Mary, is it?
What's that?
Is your mother-in-law Mary?
Yeah, Mary Tipton. Mm-hmm.
Chuck? Mary
Yeah,
and
yeah, Chuck and Mary. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love her.
Yeah, me too.
No doubt.
Is anybody else eating anything good from the farmer's market or from their garden?
Garden, tomatoes. Tonight we had a tomatillo salsa on some chicken that was really good. And chicken and rice. It was good.
Oh, that's great. That sounds delicious.
I don't have a very large garden. Tomatoes and tomatillos and basil. Boom, that's the end.
That's the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But my son,
We really
My
miss going to the fair.
God, tomatoes this year are just, he called me again tonight and said, are you ready for more? I only have cherry tomatoes left. My big tomato plants are finished, but he's been bringing these yellow tomatoes. They're about the size of softballs. Oh my gosh, they're so good.
Oh, wow. I'll be right back.
Dave, did you notice how clear? Don't I look clear?
You do. You look like you have a spotlight shining.
Well, it's just, yeah. What you do is you go around with phone, and put it on, reverse it and go where you might want to sit and see what's interfering behind you. And a light from front of you is the best.
My
Or-
glasses on,
oh,
it looks like I have sunglasses. These are not sunglasses. But it
So
looks
that was
like it.
a little tip I learned.
I actually have a ring light.
Mm.
You can see it in my,
Oh, yeah. So you have to sit in front of where, yeah, Or you could have a
I do a
halo.
lot of Zoom, so my whole business is on Zoom.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna try again.
All
How do
right,
we sound?
you sound good.
Okay, now if we could all be just quiet for just a few seconds to see if we're gonna get the repeated feedback. We were hearing it 2 and 3 times.
My dog.
Is it your?
Okay,
Ooh, Karen's good people.
I think we're good. Oh, yeah. Okay, I think we're good.
Hey,
Thank you for your indulgence of that. I don't know why we test this every time before and it works. And then we try to set up the meeting and it just doesn't work. And I'm ready to pull out my hair.
Murphy's Law.
Okay, sorry about that. So, we couldn't hear where we left off. So
So Claudia, I was asking you or someone from PARTA if you could give us a little explanation about the resolution.
okay. Did we finish roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Did
So
you have been in it?
Did you want to?
I'm sorry.
Should you have been in it? Because I don't think we went through your
We
group.
normally say our names, but we also know we're here, so.
Okay.
As long as Marcia gets it in the minutes, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-0801 is requesting authority to purchase 3 CNG transit buses, all the equipment, optional equipment and spare parts from Tesco. This resolution will authorize us to buy buses 7, 8, and 9 in our CNG programmed buses. We fortunately, just 2 weeks ago, received word that we received buses and bus facilities funding in the amount of $446,000, which will cover 80% of one bus. And we previously secured funds through the CMAQ program for the other 2 buses. So the total project cost is not to exceed 1.8 million, with 80% being covered by the grant funds that we've secured. We previously mentioned maybe 2 or 3 months ago that the bus build time was 24 months. But over the last month or so, that has changed as a large order from Los Angeles Transit was canceled or postponed, which then moved us up the schedule. So we now have a 13-month build time. And so our intent is to order the buses in September for delivery in October of 2021. This will help us stay on our fleet replacement schedule, pulling off the road aging diesel buses that run less cleanly and efficiently, and they have exhausted their useful life by a year or so. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Karen, you're muted. You have to hit you're muted, yeah.
Yeah, because the dog was squeaking his
Oh,
toy.
okay.
If you had not gotten that grant for the 446,000, 80% of a bus, would you still have bought 3 buses?
We would. We also have funding, what we refer to as 5307 funding, which is urbanized area formula funding. And that is the eligible projects are preventative maintenance and buying buses, and a variety of other activities. This is a formula amount that is granted to us annually that we can use for a variety of purposes. But by receiving a federal grant, the 5339, we can use the 5307 for other projects or purposes or preventative maintenance. So it helps us move money around and use our limited sales tax dollars in a more efficient way. And then our federal dollars can be put to use on other projects.
Thank you.
The Finance Committee did discuss this on Tuesday from a financial perspective. They did look at the capital budget, and this is set aside, the 20% is set aside for these buses.
So what happens to the buses that you take out of service?
I will let Brian handle that one.
It really depends. A lot of the time, like with the 7700 series buses that we're going to be pulling out of service now, 2 of them have already lost the top side of their motors. So rather than invest another $25,000 to $30,000, we just parked them. So we'll probably end up scrapping those buses. They're probably about an 80%, maybe not quite 80%, maybe 70% stainless steel. So we get a pretty good scrap price out of those once they get to that point. We also take and scavenge a lot of parts off of them. Use those parts on buses that we can get some more distance out of. We always try to do that whenever we can. So it just happens that the 7700 series buses, they weren't the best buses that we've bought over the years. They were right when the emissions started coming into play for heavy duty diesel engines. So there was a lot of parts on those buses that weren't exactly the best in the world. If you remember the mid to late 70s with cars and a lot of the issues we had with cars running back then, well, we have those same issues in the from about 2005 to 2008 on some of the diesel engines when they were starting to learn how to make them clean burning diesel. So these 7700 series buses fall into that. We also are going to be, I think, retiring one 7900 series bus. The key to that would be 77 would be a bus that was built in 2007. The second digit in a bus usually indignifies what year it was made in. So 79 was a 2009 series bus, and 77s were 2007 series buses. It's just the method that we use here to keep track of it. So if it's a sellable and runnable bus, we usually will put that up for auction on eBay. We do pretty well there with them when they're a good running unit. You know, we just sold a tractor recently that we've had for, oh boy, it was here when I came here in 2003. And we got like 12 grand out of that tractor. So it really depends on what it is. If I think that we can get some money out of the eBay market, we go that route. But if it's not worth putting money into and tried to make into a runnable unit, we just scrap it. And we do okay there with scrapping. Not a lot, usually somewhere around $1,500 to $1,800 or something like that for a scrap bus. So that's what we do.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions? So then is it time to make a recommendation? Does anyone want to make the recommendation or?
I'll make a move
Okay, Morgan.
first.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. And opposed? Okay. So we, now what do you want? Should I make the recommendation then to the board? Or will I
Well,
do
you
that at the meeting?
You have a motion and a second and a vote to recommend it to the board, so you're good with that.
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything you need to do an executive session on, so you would just need a motion and vote to adjourn then.
Okay, motion to adjourn, please.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second? Thank you, Morgan. Okay, we're adjourned.
Vote, need to vote.
We
Go ahead and
voted.
vote on it, Debbie.
Vote on the motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay. All right. All in favor, say aye. Okay,
Aye.
aye.
Good
Do you
job.
want me to go through each person that way then, or is that better, or how do you?
You don't need to go through.
I can just say all in favor of that, then okay,
Right.
all right.
Now, when the resolution comes up to be passed at the board meeting, since it is a resolution and not a motion, that'll need to be done on a roll call vote at the board meeting, but you don't need to do that at the committee because you're just making a recommendation on the resolution, not passing the resolution itself.
Then should we make the recommendation though at the board meeting or no?
There will be an opportunity for a report from the operations committee, and you can just say the operations committee met. The only
Recommend.
business was to consider the resolution, and the committee recommends that the board
Okay.
approve it.
Okay,
When it comes time to introduce the resolution to be voted on,
Mhm.
it would be appropriate for you to make the motion since
Okay.
it's coming from your committee. Not required, but that would be appropriate.
yeah, okay,
They will have committee reports as part of that, so you can include that as part of your committee report as well.
okay.
I think you're the only one that won't have minutes. The finance committee minutes have been typed out. But you don't have printed minutes, so you just get to wing it.
Okay.
Good job.
Good job, Debbie.
Oh, thanks. Good job, everyone. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Everyone runs everything a little different, so.
Mhm.
It is, and this is a hard setup when you're calling the roll for the committee meetings and for the board meetings, because what shows up on everybody's screen is not in the same order.
It's all different.
So they're all different. So when you're sitting in the room, you can just go around the table and go one by one. What we've been doing for committee and board meetings is just having the board members announce who they are and where they're from, and then the staff do the same. Another alternative, if the board chose to do it, would be to have similar to a roll call vote and either have each board member say present, or instead of present, maybe have them announce, from their appointing authority, like City of Kent, Township of Ravenna, Middle Portage, wherever they're from. So that's up to the board. As long as you get a quorum and you have acknowledged that there's a quorum present for the meeting, that's really the main thing. The other part is just personal preference.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a question though. Okay.
Yes,
As far as the quorum, there's 3 on the committee, but as far as a quorum, you could still have a meeting with 2 and then appoint someone to take the 3rd position, right? If you got a committee of 3 and
Right.
only 2 showed up, so you would appoint somebody to fill that 3rd position.
Right.
But if there was nobody there to fill that position, could you still have a meeting? And my point is, if you got a tie, how would you break the tie?
That's a problem that you would have. You can, as long as you have a quorum, you can have the meeting.
Okay.
But if you have a quorum that's an even number, even if you have a board meeting and you have 14 board members there, if you get an even vote on it and it's a tie, generally the motion doesn't pass if it's a tie. But generally with the board meetings, the board chair is the last one to vote. And quite often the board chair will abstain from voting if it would deadlock the vote. And if it would relieve a deadlock, then the board chair would vote. But quite often, the board chair is the last one called for a vote.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
so if we don't have a quorum and there's just 2, is there still a meeting? If you can't
Well,
get,
you
Would
can have
be
a
a
quorum
quorum.
with 2.
okay.
It's
still a
just
quorum.
then you have to have a unanimous
Really
vote.
vote.
Right.
Okay. All right.
That
Quorum
doesn't
for-
happen very often.
Yeah, a quorum for the large group PARTA board, is that 8?
Yes.
Yes.
When we
Okay.
have all of our seats filled.
Right.
Right now, though, we don't because of Tim Lassen resigning, and we have not received word yet from Franklin Township. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but I think that leaves us with 13 and we'd have a quorum of 7.
Correct. Yeah, I had forgotten about Tim. I was thinking that we had 14, and if it was 14, you would need 8 for a quorum, but yeah, with 13, 7 would make a quorum.
Hi, Frank.
We'll be available if I have to call you in a few. Well, it's not working right, but be available if I call you in a few. Bye.
Who do we know not coming besides Karen?
Hi, Jack. Welcome. You're on mute. Hi, Mike.
Hello, hello.
Marcia, have you heard from Marge or Karen or Virginia?
Virginia's trying to get in.
I didn't hear that.
Marge,
Oh,
I think Marge is
Virginia's,
trying to come in.
Virginia is connecting right now.
Okay.
Marge cannot make it. And Karen cannot make it.
we still have a couple minutes, but I think we have a full crew, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. $11. Marge, when we're Marcia,
Yes.
when we're ready, I think we'll do the roll call by you calling the roll, and everybody will respond by announcing the organization that appointed them to the board.
Okay.
Since
We are recording now.
okay,
Okay, we're recording.
Okay, then I'll call to order the meeting of the PARTA August 27th board meeting. And I'd like to welcome two new members, Karen Beck, who's appointed by the city of Kent to fill the place of Brian Gray, one more term on that term. And then also Jack Murphy, who is filling the position that was vacated by Rick Bisler. We're happy to have both of you here. They have been through the training, and I think Claudia will have something to say about them, but welcome. We're happy to have you as part of our board. After we do the roll call, I'd suggest that everybody mute, just because fans or outside noises, maybe you're not talking, but there are other noises. I think it would be a lot easier for everybody to hear if everybody mutes unless you're ready to speak. So with that said, we're glad you're here. And Marcia, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Beck,
I'm here. I'm here from the city of Kent.
Mr. Brockett,
Richmond Brockett, Portage North.
Mr. Childers,
Jeff, unmute. Jeff,
back. Ms. Davison,
Here, City of Ravenna.
Mr. Ginn,
I'm here from Middle Portage County.
Ms. Harris, Mr. Lewis,
I am here, Ravenna Township.
Mr. Murphy,
I am here from the city of Kent.
Ms. Tipton,
Morgan Tipton, City of Kent.
Mr. Vitale, Mr. Woods,
Marvin Woods, City of Streetsboro.
Mr. Childers, Ms. Harris, Mr. Vitale.
Frank, unmute and answer. Unmute in the upper right-hand corner. Okay,
Mr. Childers, Mr. Vitale,
Frank, you can hear us, correct? It's just we can't hear you.
turn up your volume. He is here, we can see him.
right. Okay. Ms. Amrine,
Claudia Amrine, General Manager, PARTA.
Spala,
Denise Baba, Communications and Public Advocacy Advisor, PARTA.
Marcia Fletcher, Executive Assistant, PARTA. Ms. Jurish,
Kelly Jurish, Chief of Staff, PARTA.
Mr. Nome,
Bill Nome, part legal counsel.
Mr. Popick,
Poppin, Director of Planning, PARTA.
Ms. Schrader,
Rebecca Schrader, Director of Finance, PARTA.
Mr. Troutman.
Brian Troutman, Chief Operations Officer, PARTA.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. I'm glad that we have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is the minutes I know that they were sent out plenty ahead of time, but people may not have received them until yesterday or today. They were, however, online. So hopefully everybody has the minutes from the July 23rd meeting. We need a motion to accept the minutes. And unmute yourself to make the motion.
So moved.
Morgan moves,
Second.
second by Mike. Are there any questions or changes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. That motion passes. Because of COVID, there are no guests this time, so we'll go to the general manager's report, which was also highlighted in the packet that you have. So Claudia, would you like to talk?
Sure. Thank you, Dave. First off, we apologize for the delay in the mail delivery of packets. If you do receive a packet by mail, we understand that they were not delivered in the normal timely manner. So we did get those out on Friday early, so we apologize if that was an inconvenience to anyone. And I would like to welcome Karen Beck and Jack Murphy. We're just thrilled to have you both on our board. Had great orientation sessions and conversation this week, and we really look forward to working with you. I did put just a little blurb in the report about your backgrounds. So Karen is a retired educator, worked in the city of Ravenna, and Jack is currently employed with Capco, a Kent State graduate. He's a chemist. So I'll be interested in hearing more about what he does sometime soon. But again, welcome and thank you so much for your willingness to volunteer and to step up and to be a part of the community and the people that we serve here through our services at PARTA. So thank you. I guess the only thing to highlight really is that this week, the Kent City Board of Health the health department moved into the Gateway. And so they are now officially located in the second floor of our facility downtown. Within the next week or so, you should be able to drive by and see a large green sign above the other signs that are on the first level that will say Kent City Health Department, second floor. So we're working through ironically, the Planning Commission and zoning issues with the City of Kent for a City of Kent sign. And it's taking longer than we thought. So that's great news, as we've been working on that project for about 3 years to find a suitable tenant. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Claudia, would you also want to mention the FTA award, because that really is a big deal for us?
Sure. About 2 weeks ago, we received notice that PARTA had been selected for a FTA bus and bus facilities grant funding. That is providing 80% of the needed funds to purchase one CNG transit bus. I did note in my report that it's a highly competitive federal award process, and we were one of only 3 from Ohio that were awarded out of, I think, 96 total applications around the country. And the nearly 300 applications asked for $1.8 billion in funding, but $464 million was available. So it kind of gets to the reality that there are a lot of needs to keep up our transit fleets across the country in a state of good repair. So hopefully the funding will continue to be provided for replacement and keeping the safest and most efficient running buses on the road.
Any comments or questions from anybody else? This is a good time to ask. Just unmute and ask away.
Congratulations. That's quite a feat.
Thank you. Yeah. I was really kind of surprised because it is so highly competitive, and we only applied for one bus, and that's what we got.
Good deal.
Good for you. It never hurts to ask.
Right, right.
I think we do a good job of applying for every grant that we can possibly apply for.
Well,
Keep
and
the
this
buses
grant,
running.
this is the first grant, well, the first year that we've been, Ashley Boyd, our, who works in Becky's department, has evolved into our grant writer very well. And so it's a lot of fun when we get an award because a lot of work goes into it. Not just from Ashley, but it is a team effort because there are components of the grant and the narrative that need to be put together by just about every department. They're very thorough and want to know precisely what we do and how we're going to use the money and how it will benefit our service.
Well, tell Ashley we express our thanks to her and Rebecca and your whole team. I think during this whole COVID-19, it's amazing that the buses keep running and you're able to continue to operate on a limited schedule and provide the kind of service that we need to have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If there are no, yes, question? Okay, if
Just
there are
one
no,
other note.
okay, go ahead.
Dave, just one other note. I did put in the packet some information about the buses and how they've been prepared for social distancing. And Kent State did start up again today. So we are running that service again, and the buses are marked with the visual cues and the signage to keep folks from sitting too closely together or standing too closely together.
Let's hope it works.
So far, so good. There's not many students on the campus yet.
Good. Then let's move on to committee reports. The administration committee did not meet. The finance committee met on Tuesday night. Mike wasn't there, but Jeff Childers was. Jeff, do you have a report? You need to unmute yourself.
I hope you can hear me. Can you, Dave?
We can hear you, yes.
Very good. Well, we met on Tuesday, August 25th on Zoom. I'd like to thank Mr. Ginn for sitting in as a committee member on that particular meeting, and Mr. Woods for also taking the time to share in the meeting. We learned several things on the revenue side. The KSU revenues for July were $41,451. The budget is $194,000 is what we expect to take in. So there was a large hit there, about $150,000 that we were under budget on. Income for the year looks like we may be as much as $500,000 down. We've collected $823,000 compared to $1,364,000 that was expected. Also troubling was fares and tickets, agency cash grants, reimbursements. The budget was to bring in about $28,000, but actually last month brought in $14,000. Sales tax also lagged by about $50,742 for the month. On the bright side, the federal government did come through providing PARTA with $1,032,000 in CARES grant money. This allowed PARTA to have about a $735,000 surplus for the reporting period. It should be noted that the county sales tax revenues are right on budget for the year, which is surprising and good. The expenses, on the other hand, for July were under budget by $113,000. Operators' wages were under by about $30,000. Administrative wages were down under budget by about $20,000. Healthcare issues and the like brought the budget down by about $24,000. Due to using less bus usage, fuel and lubricants were down by about $13,000. Travel meetings and things like that were actually, there was no travel meetings, so we saved about $3,083 there. We found that the budget for PARTA and the actual financial standing of the organization to be doing very well, considering COVID. In the capital report, we learned that the bus storage facility, we aren't spending as much there as we were going to receive money for it. So there's going to be about a $450,000 to $500,000 extra money that we can do additional build outs on the building. And so far, I don't think any of those have been planned. We have about $1.4 million set aside for future projects. The Gateway budget has some good news and bad news. There was a 26% increase in parked cars between June and July. We're still down 57% from July of 19 to July of 20, but it does show improvement. So things are getting better down there. Revenues are still down there at the parking garage. However, Kent State Hotel fell under budget by $9,400. Monthly parking passes was down $3,500, and daily parking was under budget by about $15,000. Total losses for July was about $29,003. On the other side, we are going to begin collecting the $1,500 from the Kent Health Department for use of the conference room. And they're also going to be purchasing some parking passes, which is good as well. Expenses for the parking deck and monthly budget, however, for July, we're right on budget, right where they're supposed to be. We reviewed the same resolution that the operations committee did concerning the purchase of 3 CNG buses from Tesco, and we voted unanimously to recommend to the board that they approve this resolution. And that's pretty much all we discussed there.
Hey, does anybody have any questions, or Rebecca, do you have anything to add? Yes, no?
Nope.
Someone else wanted to speak first, I'm sorry. No? The surplus for the new additional building that has been built out, are those surplus dollars earmarked for specifically for that building? Is that movable cash? Like what?
What we're told by Rebecca is that comes as a grant, and it has to be spent on that particular facility. And
Right.
Therefore, anything that we want to do to enhance the building can come out of that money, but we couldn't move it over to payroll or something like that.
Right. So the reserve surplus has to be specifically earmarked for that facility only.
That was my understanding. Maybe Rebecca, am I correct on that?
Yes, you are correct, Morgan. We received, 2 years ago, we received a 5339 bus and bus facilities grant. This is what we've been talking about this evening. It was a competitive grant, and it was to be awarded to build a storage facility. At the time, we expected the cost to be more expensive because of the type of foundation we expected to have to build, but it turned out we didn't have to build it that way, and we do have this surplus. But we have started the planning stages of what we would do with those build outs inside the storage facility, and we are looking at going out to request bids for a new architectural and engineering firm, since the current one has reached its term.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Some of the things too, Morgan, that we did is we found out early on in the process, that was one of the first things we thought we were going to have to do driven piles, because almost every one of the projects that we've done here required driven piles. we were able to get a spread footing foundation put in and for that facility. And we found out that early. So one of the things we did do is we restructured some of the footprint of the building to thicken the slab on one side of the building so that we could build a mezzanine in that area and create we have file storage issues here with space. We also have some other, we have space issues, interior space issues. So there's a section of the building closest to the east side, about one lane, half of one lane, that when we built the building, we set up the floor to be thickened in those areas so that we can add a mezzanine section to that down the road, and moved electrical and basically set it up ahead of time so that we had less cost in the project when we go to build out a interior part of that footprint.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you kind of overviewing that. Are there term limits on using that cash? Like it doesn't have to be returned if it's not used within a certain amount of time or anything like that?
So we do have it in an active grant, and as long as you are showing active use of that grant and it's not just stale and just sitting there, then we're okay. But it's not going to just sit there for multiple years. But no, there isn't really a timeline since it's already been executed into a grant. But we do have milestones that we report, and we do tell the FTA how we're going to spend that money. So we do need to stay within the milestones that we have established.
Awesome, thank you.
If you haven't been to the garage, now is a good time. It's nearly complete and no buses in it. It is huge. It is wonderful to look at. Also, I'd like the minutes to reflect that Marge has joined us. Marge. Hey, Marge.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Jeff or for Rebecca? No. Okay. Marcia did a fantastic job of getting the minutes out and to everybody, so you can read the details on that. And let's move on to the Operations Committee. Debbie, the Operations Committee met this evening.
Yes, of course. Of course, my phone started ringing as soon as I. So tonight was the first night that we met as a committee. Marvin Woods, Margaret Tipton, and myself. And then we had Mr. Brockett and Mr. Childers and Karen Beck, Kelly Juris, and Dave Ginn, and Dave Nome, or Bill Nome. So anyway, we actually were discussing the resolution to approve the 3 CNG buses that are in great need. One of the buses is from a grant, which is for $446,742, which covers 80% of it. And the other 2 are from the CMAQ funding of $832,000, which also covers 80% of the cost. And we had discussed it, and we are going to recommend to the board that we should purchase those.
And any questions for Debbie on their report? The Personnel Committee has not met, but will be meeting in the future shortly. Does anybody know of any old business? Any new business? If not, then we'll move on to the resolutions. What we do with the resolutions is that I'll read the resolution and ask for a motion to approve and second, then we'll discuss, and then after if we're satisfied with the discussion, we'll vote roll call resolutions. So resolution 2020-0801, a resolution by the Portage Area Regional Transportation Authority Board of Trustees authorizing the general manager or her designee to purchase up to 3 transit buses, optional equipment, and spare parts from the Transportation Equipment Sales Corporation, TESCO. Do we have a motion to approve this?
I'd like to make the motion.
Morgan moved,
I'll second.
Debbie seconded.
Oh, well.
Now open for discussion. We talked about it a little bit, but does anybody from PARTA want to add anything? We've talked about it a couple times. This motion was approved by both the Operations Committee and the Finance Committee to be forwarded to the board for their approval.
Sure, Dave. This will keep us on our fleet replacement schedule. We have 80% funding for all 3 buses. We will order them in September and expect to receive delivery in October of 2021. And we will retire the 3 buses that are aging diesel buses that have already exhausted their useful life.
Million here, million there. Any other discussion? Questions? Hey, Marcia, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Childers,
Yes.
Ms. Biergard,
Yes.
Mr. Vitale, Mr.
Hey,
Lewis,
Frank, nod your head if you say yes. Okay, he did.
Mr. Lewis,
Oh,
Yes.
shit, lost.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Crockett, Mr. Brockett,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Tipton,
Yes.
Ms. Davison,
Yes.
Ms. Beck,
Yes.
Harris, Mr. Ginn.
Yes. The motion passes. The next motion, 2020-0802, a resolution by the Portage Area Regional Transportation Authority Board of Trustees honoring Rick Fissler, board member, in appreciation for his dedication and service. Do we have a motion that this
I'll
resolution
make
be
that
approved?
motion.
I didn't see who said that.
I did. Marge.
Margaret,
Yes,
Marge made it.
whatever.
Second.
Second.
Second by Mike Lewis. I suppose people could have a lot to say. Claudia, you want to?
Sure. As you all know, Rick Fissler served on our board for 17 years. And for the last 14, he has served as our president. So we owe him a deep amount of gratitude and thanks for his leadership over the last 17 years. He determined that he did not want to re-up for another 3-year term. And of course, I was sad about that because he's been a great partner, but I appreciate his desire to go in a different direction. And so he did tonight, but he enjoyed his time on the board and just is leaving with good thoughts for all of us. And I think we all feel the same way. So we do have have passed a resolution traditionally for our board members to thank them for their service.
I think Rick started his interest in PARTA when he was a college student driving the bus. And I would say not just serving on the board, but I think the last years, PARTA certainly is a different organization now from when it was 17 years ago. And I think a lot of that credit goes to his leadership. We appreciate that. Other comments? If not, then Marge, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Vitale,
Shook his head, yes.
Ms. Beck,
Yes.
Ms. Harris, Ms. Biergard,
Definitely, yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Mr. Brockett,
3 cheers for and an affirmative.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Ms. Tipton,
Yes.
Mr. Childers,
Yes.
Davison,
Yes.
Mr. Ginn.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, the motion passes. The third resolution, 2020-08-03, a resolution by the Portage Area Regional Transportation Authority Board of Trustees honoring William A. Nome, PARTA legal counsel, in appreciation for his dedication and service. We have a motion that this
I'll make
resolution.
that motion.
I didn't see who it was.
Marge.
Marge, okay, thank you. Second,
A second.
okay, Marvin seconded. Discussion, Claudia?
Sure. Earlier this summer, we made the determination that we needed to look for a law firm that could offer some deeper services. We just, as Dave has mentioned, have changed a lot in the last several years. The complexity involved with our service, and now COVID is enormous. And so Bill has been such a faithful and dedicated law advisor, legal counsel for over 30 years. And so we want to thank him for his time and his service, and wish him all the best. Next month, though, we will be bringing on a Justin Markey from Rotzel and Andrus, and included just a little bit of information in the board packet, but that firm has depth of knowledge of our service through our working with OTRIP and with transportation issues that we currently deal with, as well as they have a pretty impressive emergency response team that is available 24/7, 365. So all of those things weighed together, this with COVID, the right time to unfortunately make a change. But again, thank you, Bill, and we appreciate your service. And if we could have a proper gathering, we certainly would. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. And if you think of what has changed in the last 17 years, what was PARTA like 30 years ago when it was campus bus service? And Bill has been there every meeting all along the way. We really appreciate your loyal service for all that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David, and thank the board.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, then we will have a roll call vote on this third resolution. Marcia?
Ms. Harris, Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Beck,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Vitale,
Shaking his head, yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Biergard,
2 yeses.
Mr. Brockett,
The only flaw I ever seen in Bill was he might be a Republican.
Ms. Tipton,
Yes.
Mr. Childers,
Yes.
Davison,
Yes.
Mr. Ginn.
Yes, thank you. The motion passes. I don't think there's a need for an executive session. Are there any comments from any of the PARTA staff? Kelly, sometimes you have an announcement. Nothing?
Not tonight, thank you.
Okay, anybody else from PARTA need to add anything? If not, then I will entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Motion.
Karen Beck motion,
Second.
second by Mr. Woods. All in favor say, on this one, we don't need a roll call. Is that right, Bill? All
That's
in
correct, Dave.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. That motion passes. Thank you so much. Our next meeting is September 24th. And I appreciate everybody signing on as early as they can and muting. I think that under the circumstances, it was a successful meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Night.
Bye.